The Chicago Sky just made a move that has the entire WNBA talking. They're abandoning their 10,000-seat Wintrust Arena for the massive 23,500-seat United Center, but only for one specific game, as teams scrambled to cash in on basketball's newest phenomenon. Angel Reese isn't holding back her feelings about what's really happening. The battle between two rookies has escalated beyond the court into a full-blown business revolution. Let's get straight to the breaking news. The Chicago Sky have officially announced they're moving their home game against the Indiana Fever to the United Center. This isn't just any arena change. This is moving from their regular Wintrust Arena, which holds around 10,000 fans, to the legendary United Center, home of the Chicago Bulls, with a capacity of 23,500 for concerts and approximately 21,500 for sporting events. The significance here can't be overstated. The United Center isn't just bigger. It's where Michael Jordan made history. It's where championship banners hang from the rafters. It's sacred ground in basketball terms, and the Sky are making this move for one specific matchup, when Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever come to town. But Chicago isn't alone in this strategy. The Washington Mystics have already paved this path. But the Chicago Sky aren't the only ones arena hopping to host the Indiana Fever, as the Washington Mystics also have changed their venue to accommodate the Indiana Fever. The Mystics have one of the smallest arenas in the WNBA, which is Care First Arena, which holds 4,200 capacity, and last year they took this step as well, moving their game to Capital One Arena against the Fever, which drew in. Last season, they moved their game against the Fever from their tiny Capital One Arena, which holds just 4,200 fans, to a much larger venue. The result, they drew over 20,000 spectators, nearly 5 times their normal capacity for a single regular season game. And this year, they're doubling down on that strategy. According to an official post from the Washington Mystics, mark your calendars, not 1, not 2, but 4 Mystics home games will be relocated to Eagle Bank Arena and CFG Bank Arena this season. Last season we sold out all home games. Let's do it again. We can't wait to put on a show for Northern Virginia and Baltimore. To break this down even further, the Mystics are moving their game against the Aces to Eagle Bank Arena, 10,000 capacity. Their game against the Sky also to Eagle Bank, 10,000 capacity, but their 2 games against the Indiana Fever, those are being moved to CFG Bank Arena, which holds 14,000 fans. The pattern is clear. WNBA teams are strategically relocating to larger venues, specifically when Caitlin Clark comes to town. This isn't just about accommodating a few extra fans, it's about capitalizing on what has become known as the Caitlin Clark effect. According to a June report by sportscasting.com, WNBA attendance skyrocketed by a staggering 105% when Clark was playing. The Fever averaged 36% more fans on the road than any other WNBA team. In September, a game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse between the Fever and the Mystics set a league attendance record of 20,711 spectators. The financial implications are enormous. As one commenter noted on social media, these venue changes can mean an extra $4 million in revenue, $2 million per game, for teams hosting the Fever. In a league where financial stability has been a challenge, that kind of windfall is impossible to ignore. But not everyone is celebrating this phenomenon. There's a sense of frustration among some players, most notably Angel Reese, who has built her own considerable following and star power. While there haven't been any direct quotes from Reese about the venue changes specifically, her body language and social media activity have made it clear that she's not entirely comfortable with the singular focus on Clark. The tension between Reese and Clark dates back to their college days, particularly the 2023 NCAA championship game between LSU and Iowa. That matchup became one of the most watched women's basketball games in history, not just for the quality of play, but for the contrasting styles and personalities of these two stars. What's fascinating about their dynamic is how it's carried over into the professional ranks. Both rookies have brought unprecedented attention to the WNBA, but it's Clark who seems to be driving the major business decisions like these venue changes. This raises interesting questions about recognition, marketing, and the business of women's basketball. Is it fair that teams are specifically capitalizing on Clark's drawing power? Should similar accommodations be made for games featuring Reese and the Chicago Sky? And what does this mean for the league as a whole? Caitlin Clark herself addressed the venue situation last season, saying that's what it is, and if it's going to help move the game forward, absolutely. That's amazing. That's what it should be like. I mean, I saw the ticket prices. I guess the only thing is, I'm surprised we're not playing at the United Center. I thought that would have been really good for the game, and really good for all the women's basketball fans in Chicago. So maybe there's a conflict of some sort that I don't know about. Obviously, that's a little above my pay grade, but we're excited, one at a time. Clark's prescient comment about the United Center has now come true, as the Sky have listened and made the very move she suggested would be good for the game. What we're witnessing is unprecedented in WNBA history. The league has seen stars before: Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Candace Parker, Maya Moore, to name a few, but never has a rookie generated this kind of immediate economic impact, forcing teams to literally change their venues to accommodate the demand. To put this in historical context, it's worth asking if there's any precedent for this kind of phenomenon. Did Michael Jordan cause similar venue changes in the NBA? The comparison isn't perfect. The NBA was already well established when Jordan rose to prominence, whereas the WNBA is still in a growth phase. But even accounting for that difference, what Clark is doing to attendance figures and revenue is remarkable. One aspect that makes this situation particularly interesting is the business side of women's basketball. The WNBA, for all its growth and progress, is still fundamentally a business. Teams are making these venue changes because it makes financial sense. When you can potentially earn an extra $2 million from a single game, that decision becomes obvious. As one commentator put it, Clark doesn't move the needle, she is the needle. Her impact extends far beyond just attendance figures. The new CBA collective bargaining agreement that's offering the WNBA much more money, the building of new practice facilities, the implementation of charter flights last season, all of these advancements are at least partially attributable to the increased revenue and attention that Clark has brought to the league. But this raises complex questions about equity and recognition within the sport. While Clark's impact is undeniable, basketball remains a team sport. The focus on one player, no matter how talented or popular, can create tension within teams and across the league. This is where the Angel Reese aspect becomes particularly relevant. Reese has carved out her own significant following and is an exceptional talent in her own right. The narrative of Reese versus Clark that began in college has carried over to the pros, where both rookies are making their mark, but the disparity in how the league and teams are responding to them commercially is notable. What's particularly interesting is how this dynamic is playing out publicly. Reese, known for her outspoken nature and strong personality, hasn't been shy about expressing her feelings about being compared to Clark or feeling overlooked. There's a sense that while she respects Clark's game, she's frustrated by what she perceives as unequal treatment and recognition. This tension isn't necessarily negative for the league. In fact, rivalries have historically been great for sports business. The Magic Johnson-Larry Bird rivalry helped save the NBA in the 1980s. The question is whether the WNBA can successfully navigate this dynamic, celebrating both stars while using their contrasting styles and personalities to build interest in the game. From a business perspective, what's happening with these venue changes represents a fascinating case study in sports economics. WNBA teams are essentially conducting a real-time experiment. How much more revenue can we generate by moving to a larger venue for specific high-demand games? The results so far suggest the answer is a lot. There's also the question of sustainability. Is the Caitlin Clark effect a flash in the pan, or the beginning of a new era for women's basketball? Will these larger venues still be filled in year 2, year 3, and beyond, or will the novelty wear off? The early indicators suggest this isn't just a temporary phenomenon. The fundamental appeal of Clark's game, combined with the overall rising quality of play in the WNBA, points to long-term growth. For the players themselves, this situation creates both opportunities and challenges. On one hand, the increased attention and revenue should eventually translate to higher salaries, better facilities, and more resources across the board. On the other hand, the uneven distribution of attention can create tension and resentment if not managed properly. What's clear is that the WNBA is at an inflection point. For years, the league has been building steadily, developing talent, and improving its product. Now, with the arrival of Clark Reese and an exceptionally talented rookie class, combined with established stars like Aja Wilson, Breanna Stewart, and others, the league has an unprecedented opportunity to capture the imagination of sports fans. The moves by the Chicago Sky and Washington Mystics to larger venues are just one visible manifestation of this opportunity. Behind the scenes, there are likely numerous other business decisions being made based on the same calculus. How can we best capitalize on this moment? For fans, this is an exciting time. More seats means more opportunities to see the game in person. Larger venues often come with better amenities and viewing experiences. The atmosphere of 20,000 plus fans cheering for women's basketball creates memories and converts casual viewers into lifelong fans, but it's also a moment that requires thoughtful management from the league. The focus on Clark, while understandable from a business perspective, needs to be balanced with celebration of other stars and storylines. The rivalry with Reese provides a perfect opportunity for this, promoting both players as the faces of a new generation, rather than elevating one at the expense of the other. The real question is where this leads. Are larger venues just the beginning? Will we see WNBA games moving to football stadiums for special matchups? Will broadcast deals, sponsorships, and merchandise sales follow the same explosive growth trajectory? And how will this impact the international growth of the women's game? What makes these venue changes particularly significant is that they represent concrete, measurable evidence of impact. It's one thing to talk about increased interest or social media buzz. It's another to see teams literally changing their business operations to accommodate demand. This isn't speculation or hype. It's cold, hard business decision-making. For Clark herself, this must be an extraordinary experience. Imagine being a rookie and realizing that entire arenas are being switched specifically because of you. The pressure and expectations that come with that kind of impact are immense. Yet so far, she seems to be handling it with remarkable poise and focus on the game itself. For Reese, the challenge is different but equally significant. How do you establish your own identity and impact in a league where another rookie is drawing unprecedented attention? Her response so far has been to lean into her authentic self, building her brand around her distinctive personality and play style, rather than trying to compete directly with Clark's approach. The truth is, the WNBA needs both of them, and many others. The league's growth won't be sustained by a single star. No matter how bright, it will require a constellation of compelling players, teams, and storylines that can capture the imagination of a diverse audience. In that sense, the tension between Clark and Reese is actually beneficial, as long as it remains respectful and focused on basketball. Their contrasting styles and personalities create natural storylines that draw in viewers who might otherwise not watch the WNBA. As we look ahead to the upcoming season, these venue changes are likely just the beginning. Expect to see more teams making similar moves, especially as the schedule progresses and the drawing power of key matchups becomes even clearer. We may also see innovations in ticketing, premium experiences, and other revenue-generating strategies specifically built around high-demand games. The most exciting aspect of all this is what it could mean for the long-term health of women's basketball. Increased revenue leads to increased investment, which leads to better player development, which leads to a better product, which leads to more fans, creating a virtuous cycle of growth. If managed properly, this moment could be the catalyst that propels the WNBA to new heights. For players like Angel Reese, the challenge will be finding ways to ensure that this growth benefits everyone, not just a select few stars. Her frustration is understandable, but it can also be channeled into positive change, pushing for recognition of diverse talents and stories within the expanding spotlight on the league. Meanwhile, for Caitlin Clark, the challenge will be sustaining this level of impact while continuing to develop as a player and teammate. The expectations are enormous, but so far, she's shown remarkable ability to rise to the occasion. Ultimately, what we're witnessing is the evolution of a league in real time. These venue changes aren't just about accommodating more fans for a few games. They're visible evidence of a fundamental shift in how the WNBA does business, in how women's basketball is perceived in the broader sports landscape. As a basketball fan, this is a fascinating moment to witness. The game is growing before our eyes, driven by exceptional talent both new and established. The business is adapting to meet unprecedented demand, and the cultural impact is expanding beyond traditional basketball audiences to capture the attention of the broader sports world. Whether you're Team Clark or Team Reese, or just a fan of great basketball, there's never been a more exciting time to follow the WNBA. These venue changes are just one sign of a league that's finally getting the attention and investment it has long deserved. As arenas literally expand to accommodate this new era of women's basketball, one thing is crystal clear: the WNBA will never be the same. Whether you're Team Clark, Team Reese, or just love watching history unfold,